Hello and welcome to Children's Time. Today we're going to talk a little bit about Moses. Moses' story is found in the book of Exodus, which is in the Old Testament part of our Bible. The Old Testament part of the Bible was written long before Jesus came to the earth, and it tells the story of God's people called the Israelites. And in the book of Exodus, the very beginning of the book, we find God's people, the Israelites, trapped in a country called Egypt. They are slaves there to the people and to the king of Egypt, who is called the Pharaoh. And Moses actually grows up in Pharaoh's house, in his palace, because when Moses was a little baby, to save him, his mother put him in a basket and sent him down the river Nile. And it was there that Pharaoh's daughter found Moses and brought him back to the palace and raised him as one of her own children. And later on, when Moses grows up, he finds out who he is, and he ends up getting into some trouble, and he runs away from Egypt. And he ends up being a shepherd out in the wilderness watching some sheep. And as he's watching over these sheep, he is just kind of hanging out and being a shepherd. And one day he sees this bush, and this bush is on fire, but it's not burning up, it's just shooting flames. And he's startled by this bush, and so he goes over to the bush, and the bush starts to talk to him. And it's God speaking to Moses through the bush. And God tells Moses, I need you. You are going to go back to Egypt. You're going to stand up to the Pharaoh, and you're going to tell Pharaoh that my people, the Israelites, are going to be set free. And Moses is startled by this, and he tells God, oh, I'm not the right person for this job. I can't talk very well, and I certainly don't think I could stand up to Pharaoh. And God assures him that, no, Moses is the right person for the job, but he's going to send Moses' brother Aaron along with Moses so that they can do it together. Because Aaron has some gifts in speaking to people, and Aaron can help with the speaking part that Moses is a little bit afraid of. And so together they go and they confront Pharaoh. And throughout these next weeks, we're going to hear more and more about Moses and the story of Moses and the Israelites. And that's where we're going to end our story today. If you want to know more about Moses and his story, you can read in the book of Exodus the story, or you can watch a movie called The Prince of Egypt. It's an animated movie. It came out a few years ago, and it's a really good depiction of Moses' story. It's got some great music, and it's fun to watch. So I would suggest you could watch that with your family if you'd like. And also, there are so many things we can learn from the story of Moses and the Israelite people. And so that's why I kind of want us to explore this story as we go along in these next few weeks. So something we can learn from the story today is that sometimes in our lives, for you and for me, people will say to us that we can't do something. Or we'll think to ourselves, do you know what? I'm not smart enough to do that. Or I can't talk. Well, I could never get in front of people and talk. Or I can't stand up to someone because I'm just too little and there's nothing I could do about it. But those things are not true. We have a voice, and we can stand up and tell people if they're doing something wrong. We are smart enough, and we are able to do things that we're called to do in our lives. And God believes in us, and God also sends people to help us along those ways. And God will always love us, and God believes we are special and that we have a purpose, and God will encourage that as well. And so we can learn from Moses that even when we're scared and even when we think we're not good enough to do something we're feeling really called to do, we can do it. And God will continually be with us always. Join me in prayer. Dear God, thank you that you give us the ability to do the things you ask us to. Thank you that we're special and that you love us and that you send people to help us. Be with us always. Amen. Well, thank you and have another wonderful week. And I'll see you next week on Children's Time, and we'll learn a little bit more about the story of Moses.